Discover your true identity according to the Bible, shocking revelations that change everything. In the dusty town of Verdant Springs, whispers of secrets wrapped in shadows lingered like the thick evening fog. The old church stood at the center, its steeple pointing toward the heavens, as if searching for answers long buried beneath the golden rays of the setting sun. It was here that an extraordinary revelation was about to unfold. One ordinary Tuesday night, the town's unsuspecting folks gathered for a regular Bible study, unaware they were on the brink of a revelation so shocking it would alter their lives forever. The quaint little gathering, with its worn wooden pews and flickering candles, felt oddly electric that night, as if the air was charged with unspeakable possibilities. As Pastor Jonas flipped through the pages, a strange tremor ran through the room. The verses he read whispered promises of identity, a concept everyone craved but few understood. "You are fearfully and wonderfully made." His voice faded as gasps filled the air. It was then that Sarah, a waitress with stories etched in her tired eyes, noticed an odd light glowing from the ancient stained glass. Shadows danced along the walls, weaving tales that left audible gasps echoing around the room. As questions hung heavy in the air, a chilling sensation crept through the gathering. People fidgeted and exchanged sidelong glances. It was more than just a mere coincidence, something bigger was at play. The gentle tapping on the stained glass seemed to beckon, and Pastor Jonas felt a pull he couldn't resist. The verses promised transformation. Who wouldn't want to unveil the true identity the Bible spoke of? But then the candle flickered, revealing a flicker of doubt on each face. What did it mean for them, and who were they really? Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As Pastor Jonas opened his mouth to speak again, a deafening crash came from above, sending everyone scrambling. Lights flickered ominously. The entire building seemed to breathe, alive with anticipation. "Stay calm," he shouted, but his own voice betrayed him, trembling uncontrollably. What awaited them in the darkness of that moment? Secrets? Truths about themselves that they had long buried? The energy shifted, and Sarah felt her heart pound. It was a mix of fear and curiosity. Was this a call to embrace something they had all ignored for too long? Now, with hearts racing and the revelation hanging just out of reach, the town would soon learn that the Bible's promised identity came with a cost. What would they uncover? And would they find strength in the truth, or would they shatter against its weight? The silence that followed the crash felt suffocating, as if the air had thickened with every unasked question. Sarah's pulse quickened as she glanced around, her eyes darting from one frozen face to another. Fear clung to the walls, thick and palpable, settling in the pit of her stomach like a heavy stone. And then, with a powerful intensity, a blinding light burst from the stained glass, illuminating eerie patterns that twisted and warped before their eyes. "Get back!" shouted David, a young man with a history of bravado, his voice cracking with adrenaline. But the force of the light drew them in rather than pushed them away. Like moths to a flame, they edged closer, each step heavy with trepidation and a strange sense of yearning. Pastor Jonas felt a deep pull. This was more than just a moment, this was a revelation. "Trust," he murmured, not entirely sure if he was convincing himself or the frightened flock. "Whatever this is, it has a purpose." As uncertainty mixed with curiosity, Sarah swayed between the desire to flee and the urge to uncover the enigma that seemed to radiate from above. "What if," she thought, "what if this light shows us who we are?" The words echoed in her mind, as if a voice she couldn't hear directly screamed within her, urging her to surrender to the unknown. Suddenly, the light dimmed, leaving behind an afterimage like a ghost lingering on the periphery of sight. The whispers began soft at first, almost inaudible. It was a blend of voices all around her. Phrases fluttered like leaves in the wind, and then settled into a chilling phrase that sent shivers down her spine: "You are not who you think you are." Each word seemed to resonate inside her, vibrating through her core, unearthing memories she thought she'd locked away forever. Faces flashed in her mind: her estranged parents, her younger self full of dreams, the decisions that led her here. As fear morphed into something darker, Sarah's breath hitched. Around her, people gasped. They too were haunted by reflections of their past. Faces turned pale, eyes wide with realization as lies they had lived began to fracture. "Enough!" cried Brenda, a local schoolteacher known for her poise. But the authority in her voice was drowned by the swelling tide of whispered truths. "We must protect our secrets." She clutched her chest as if trying to hold in the flood of emotion. Pastor Jonas, in a desperate attempt to regain control, raised his hands. "Focus. Listen. We need to understand." But the desperation in his voice echoed with uncertainty. Then, a loud thud resounded from the loft above them, a heavy weight that signaled something sinister awakening. The flickering lights plunged them into further disarray. Each person was now intently aware of the shadows shifting, imbued with a sense of urgency that ignited deeper fears. They had stepped into a realm where revelation and terror collided. Just then, the light surged again, but this time it revealed a figure, a silhouette shrouded in darkness, looming large against the brilliantly colored glass. It stopped everyone cold. A gasp swept through the crowd. "Who are you?" someone whispered, the question heavy with dread. The figure stepped forward, its features still hidden in shadow, and slowly raised a hand, pointing directly at Sarah. You are the key to everything." A chill ran down her spine. Had she been chosen? What did it mean? The room held its breath as the crowd turned to her, eyes wide and begging for answers, but as Sarah opened her mouth to respond, the air thickened with an impending storm, and the lights flickered one last time before plunging them all into darkness. What truth awaited them in that suffocating silence? And what would Sarah discover when the darkness finally receded? The silence was thunderous, pressing down on them like a weight. Sarah's heart raced in the stillness, pounding against her chest as her thoughts scrambled in a frantic dance. What did the figure mean? She felt eyes boring into her, holding her accountable for some unspoken truth. But then came a flicker, a weak attempt of the lights to revive. It illuminated the room just enough to catch the looks of sheer panic painted across the faces around her. David's expression twisted in confusion, while Brenda's hand was still pressed tight against her chest, as if her heart might burst free from the weight of her own buried secrets. And then, right when Sarah thought she might suffocate under the pressure, a voice broke through the suffocating dark. I can't do this." It was Jessica, a timid woman usually consumed by her fears. "What if we can't handle the truth? What if enough?" Pastor Jonas snapped, his voice suddenly sharp. "There's no going back now." His resolve fell flat against the growing dread. The blinding light and mysterious figure had thrown them into chaos, and now they were clinging to his authority as if it were the only lifeline in a stormy sea. In that moment, the air shifted, thickening with desperation. All eyes turned once more to Sarah, the chosen one, the key to whatever this was. Could she really unlock the answers hidden within this darkness? Suddenly, the figure stepped into the thin beam of light spilling from the fractured glass above. The shadows melted away, revealing a face. It was not a stranger. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Her reflection stared back at her, but twisted and haunted, a version of herself marred by regret. Looking into those eyes was like peering into a fractured mirror, only the reflection shifted, her childhood self smiling brightly only to morph into distorted visions of hurt and sorrow. "Who are you?" she gasped, the question spilling out, desperate and trembling. "I am all you have forgotten," the figure replied, and as it spoke, Sarah felt the air thrum with undeniable energy. "You've buried your truth under layers of lies. Confront it, Sarah." The truth will set you free, or consume you. Fear gripped her. The words morphed into a force that pushed her toward an unfamiliar abyss. Brenda sobbed softly, her face pale as others clutched onto whatever remained of their control. Even David's bravado faltered, eyes wide and searching for courage. "Stay away from her," he shouted, stepping protectively toward Sarah, defiance in every fiber of his being. But the shadow did not retreat. The grin it bore revealed no malice, only a certainty that pierced deeper than any assault. "You cannot hide from your essence. Even now, it screams for release." Moments passed, the darkness wrapping tightly around them like a noose. The air grew thicker, suffocated by collective dread. Whispers ignited in the shadows, growing louder, blending into a cacophony of doubts and fears unraveling the very fabric of their identities. "You are not who you think you are." Sarah stood frozen, every nerve alight. What held her in place was not merely fear, it was a deep-rooted rebellion within her, a fight against the very truth she had buried. Just as the whispers reached a crescendo, the lights flickered back to life with a violent surge. The figure distorted, then faded back into shadow. Panic erupted, people stumbled over each other, a rush to escape what felt like impending doom. Sarah felt herself being drawn away, yet her feet felt glued to the floor. "Sarah!" David shouted, reaching out for her. But before she could grasp the reality of it, the shadow surged back, enveloping her with a dangerous heat. "You cannot escape the truth. You will face it, and soon." The room dimmed once more, shadows twisting in patterns that held secrets she yearned to unlock, yet feared to confront. What awaited her in the darkness? And would the truth she longed for bring light, or consume her entirely? Sarah took a sharp breath, her lungs burning as though they were filled with shadows rather than air. The swirling darkness was not just an absence of light, it was alive, throbbing with memories she wished she could forget. The whispers clawed at her mind. Each taunt was a shard of glass, reflecting bits of the past she had tried so hard to bury. "Sarah, come on." David's voice snapped her back. He was still there, but his face was twisted in concern, a stark contrast to the chaos around them. Everyone fought against the panic tide, hands grabbing at the walls, desperate to find purchase as the fear gripped tighter. Just then, a crash echoed from the back of the room. A window had shattered, sending glass shards raining like ominous stars falling from the sky. Brenda screamed, her hands instinctively flying to cover her head as if to shield herself from more than just the falling glass. "Get to the exits!" Pastor Jonas bellowed, trying to assert order. His voice wavered, revealing cracks in his once unwavering confidence. He was losing them, and even he knew it. The light flickered again, casting the room into momentary darkness before returning, revealing more panic-stricken faces. "Don't leave me!" Jessica cried out, eyes wide and wild, searching the darkness with desperation. I'll stay with you," David said, glancing at Sarah, caught in the clash between instinct and responsibility. "No. Stay with her," Brenda shouted, pointing at Sarah like she held the answers. With the figure gone, Sarah felt clarity tugging at her consciousness, not as a comfort, but an impending dread. Something pressing on her chest told her she had to confront whatever had been ignited in the shadows. "Help me," she choked out, though it felt more like a plea for understanding. "Help us all." The group quivered as if they could feel the palpable energy shifting, thickening once more. The shadows hadn't been vanquished, they awaited their moment to reclaim the space, lurking just out of sight. "I can't stay here." Jessica's voice broke through the rising tide of hysteria. "I can't." The terror collapsing her usually timid demeanor transformed her into a figure of raw fear. "Listen to me," Sarah said, the conviction sounded foreign even to her. "We need to find out what that figure meant. It was me, wasn't it? Some part of me." "No!" Brenda shouted, shaking her head violently as if to deflect Sarah's words. "You're wrong. You can't what?" Brenda?" Sarah interrupted, feeling the heat of her own hurt boiling under the surface. "Can't face what we've done. It's why we're here." Anger surged in her chest, pushing her forward into the light, igniting deeper fear in the others. The group hesitated, glancing between each other, weighing their fears against a looming truth. Just then, the room shifted again. Walls creaked as if they were alive. Sarah felt the bite of cold air slip through her, chilling her to the bone, reminding her of every moment she had tried to ignore. "We have to choose," Pastor Jonas declared, raising his hands. "Run in fear or find the truth behind the darkness. It's our decision." He looked at them, eyes darkened with uncertainty, as if recognizing the weight of responsibility resting on their shoulders. In that heavy moment, Sarah gathered her resolve. "I'll face it," she declared, sealing the truth of her words in the air between them. "If I am the key, then I have to unlock this door." And as she stepped forward, the shadows gathered, almost alive, stretching and swirling as if sensing the challenge. The air crackled with energy, anticipation building like a coiled spring ready to snap. What awaited Sarah beyond this threshold? And would she be strong enough to confront the truths waiting in the dark? The heartbeat of the room matched the pulse of her own fear, pressing her onward. One last echo of her past stirred as she took a deep breath, ready to plunge into the depths. Was she prepared to dive headfirst into her own soul? As Sarah stepped deeper into the swirling darkness, the cold seeped into her bones, twisting her insides. The room behind her seemed to vanish, swallowed by shadows as the air thickened. She felt David's hand brushing hers, a fleeting tether amidst the enveloping chaos. He didn't pull away. His grip tightened, grounding her. "Stay close," he whispered, his voice barely cutting through the whispering wind that swirled around them. "I will," Sarah replied, more to convince herself than him. With each step into the dark, shadows twisted into faces familiar and jarring. She caught quick glimpses of places she had tried to erase, the old school playground where laughter turned to taunts, the cliques that whispered behind her back, the painful silences of friends turned strangers. The memories flooded in so fast, it felt like being swept away in a tide. What is this?" Brenda stuttered behind them, her voice quaking. "Confrontation," Sarah stated, dreading her own admission. "We can't outrun it." The whispers crescendoed, each syllable slicing through her resolve. "Face the truth," they echoed, a chilling invitation to dig deeper. "Sarah!" Jessica's voice burst forth, snapping Sarah's focus back. "Did you hear that? It's speaking to you." "Maybe it's time someone did," Brenda murmured, eyes darting around, scanning for escape. "No!" Sarah shouted, the sound of her own defiance startling her. "Running isn't an option anymore." A flash of light flickered and then disappeared, replaced by a silhouette that seemed to loom larger than life. It was her. Or rather, a version of her older, wounded, with tears streaming down her face. "You've ignored me," the figure whispered, voice heavy with accusation. "You buried me deep. But I'm not gone." Hot shame washed over Sarah. "I didn't mean to." The shadow contradicted, stepping closer, clarity breaking through the gloom. "You ran from the truth, Sarah. You let fear drive you. Now look where it's led. Please stop," she begged, feeling the weight of regret crush her spirit. "You can stop the cycle," the figure replied, now almost within reach. "But it begins with you confronting me." David's grip tightened even more, and she felt his breath against her ear. "You can do it, Sarah. This is your chance." Rising strength sparked within her, mingling with fear. "I'm not afraid of you," she declared defiantly, her voice booming against the disdainful whispers. "I want to see you. I want to understand." The silhouette shifted, reforming into a multitude of forms, each representing pain and doubt, each a fragment of her past that she had denied. Memories cascaded around her like a storm. Names of people she had loved, friends, enemies, and voices of lost opportunities bellowed around her, each demanding to be acknowledged. "Look closer." The figure beckoned, the plea woven with desperation. "Only by embracing the darkness can you find the light." Sarah's heart raced, the scent of memories wrapped around her like fog. She knew they could tear her apart or set her free. "I'm ready," she called, more fervently than she ever thought she could. Each word resonated, igniting a fire within. "I'm tired of running from you, from me." As the shadows leaned in, tension crackled like static electricity. Would she yield to the echoes, or would she confront them head-on? Just as she braced herself, the temperature in the air shifted, a powerful pulsation that seemed to demand a choice. "Then show me," she commanded, grounded in determination. And as the darkness trembled in anticipation, a new voice emerged within the cacophony, a voice that reverberated with truth, poised to reveal everything she had buried. "Are you ready for what the darkness may unleash? Will Sarah's confrontation lead to liberation, or will the past bind her forever?" The air thickened, pressing against Sarah's chest, every breath becoming a battle. The shadows swirled tighter, their whispers now a cacophony, overlapping and almost mocking her newfound resolve. "Embrace me," the figure demanded. "You think you can just cast me aside? I am you." But Sarah felt a surge of defiance. "No. You're a part of my past, not my future." David's supportive presence anchored her, his fingers warm against her chilled skin. "You're stronger than you realize, Sarah. Don't forget that." The multitude of forms around her fluctuated, pulsing with her every emotion. Fear turned into determination, each heart-wrenching past memory piercing through her like shards of ice. She locked eyes with the face of younger Sarah, the girl who cowered in hallways, who felt different, who was never enough. But that girl needed a friend, she breathed, her voice wavering. Did she? Or did she simply learn to hide? The older Sarah questioned, stepping closer, mirroring her own pain. "You let yourself become invisible. You buried the truth." With each accusation, the pieces of her fractured self danced dangerously close, pulling her toward a precipice of despair. The shadows swelled and twisted, echoing the doubts that had haunted her for years. Should she expose her truth, or would it tear her apart completely? "I wasn't strong then," Sarah whispered, tears pooling in her eyes. "I didn't know how exactly. You've always hidden beneath layers of pain, afraid to confront the memories." The figure shouted, frustration taut in her voice. "You think you shielded me, but you only made it worse. Why not face it? Why not fight?" The darkness vibrated with an otherworldly energy, and Sarah felt an eerie sensation wrapping around her, coaxing her to remember. Flashes of laughter, the scent of burned popcorn from sleepovers, the sting of broken friendships surged through her, beckoning her, tugging at her heart. A voice this time, her mother's soft, encouraging tones cut through the chaos. "You are loved, Sarah. You are worthy. Speak your truth." In that instant, the weight of her history crashed against her, revealing what she never acknowledged. The loneliness it bred, the missed opportunities, the friendships squandered because she was too afraid to put herself out there. "Why did I give in to fear?" she gasped, the realization holding her captive. "Because you thought it would keep you safe," the older version countered, the shadow morphing into a mirror of loss and longing. "But your truth is where your strength lies. Show them who you really are." Gulping back rising fear and vulnerability, Sarah steadied herself. "I am stronger now. I have David, Brenda, and Jessica. They believe in me. And I believe in me." A sudden silence fell, and the shadows stilled, hovering like the breath after a storm. The echo of her declaration reverberated through the void, awakening something dormant within. Would recognition of her strength banish the shadows or release a torrent of unresolved emotions? Sarah stood at the bifurcation of her present and past, the tension like a string pulled taut, ready to snap. "Sarah, are you ready to see what lies beyond?" David's tentative voice filtered through the stillness, laced with hope and fear. Or will the darkness win? A pulse of energy surged around her, and for the first time, Sarah felt empowerment mingled with acceptance. But it was the unknown ahead that loomed larger than her fears. As threads of darkness began weaving together into an ominous shape, she sensed that this confrontation was just a precursor to something much greater. Something that would challenge the very fabric of who she believed herself to be. "Breathe, Sarah," she whispered softly to herself, ready to break through the barrier that had kept her captive. And as the shadows began to congeal, hearts pounding, would she finally uncover the truth of her own identity? Or would she discover something far darker? The next chapter awaited. As Sarah felt the shadows writhe and pulse, a sense of urgency gripped her. What lies beyond? What truth do I need to confront? It felt like a challenge issued by her very own spirit, daring her to take the plunge into the unknown. David remained steadfast, his eyes locked on hers. "You've done the hardest part already, Sarah. You've acknowledged your fears. Now it's time to step forward." A tremor of uncertainty flickered across his face, revealing just how much he hoped for her to succeed. The dark form at the center began to take a shape distorted, like a reflection in a cracked mirror. It was unsettling, twisting in ways that made her heart race. The murmurs grew louder again, a dissonant symphony that pushed against her sense of self. She recognized some of the faces swirling within that darkness, old friends turned enemies, teachers who belittled her, even people from fleeting moments in her life, all drawing her back into their narratives of pain and fear. "Face me." The figure bellowed, each word striking her like thunder. "You can't escape what you are. What you've done." Sarah swallowed hard as a wave of anger, grief, and embarrassment surged within her. They were right. She'd spent so much time avoiding her truth that it had become a cacophony of shadows, each demanding to be acknowledged. "Let go. Let go." The whispers now seemed to intertwine with her thoughts, coaxing her into submission. Sarah could feel their pull, and every ounce of her wanted to collapse beneath it. She saw the girl she once was, shivering in corners, loathing the reflection in the mirror. Despair clouded her judgment. Could she really step away from that pain? "I won't give in," she shouted, her voice sharp and potent. "I am not defined by my past." The shadows jerked violently, as if struck by a shockwave. Their murmurs folded into silence, pressing in on her like a closing fist. David's reassuring nod seemed to breathe life into her resolve. "That's it, Sarah. Show them your strength." In that moment, a powerful warmth ignited deep within her. It pushed back against the tide of shadows, a pulsing beacon of clarity that spread through her body. The older Sarah's form rippled. Strength doesn't erase the past. It embraces it. Accept it. Taking a deep breath, Sarah closed her eyes, focusing on the pain of every rejection, every lost friend. They transformed, shifting from burdens to teachers. Each memory morphed, chipping away the thickness of despair and fear. When she reopened her eyes, her surroundings burst to life. She was surrounded by confidence, acceptance, and forgiveness. The shadows writhed, hissing in protest. "Stay here," the darker figure pleaded, desperation thick in its tone. "You are nothing without me." But Sarah shook her head, sharper now. "No, I'm everything because of you. I'm not hidebound by the past anymore. I acknowledge you. I accept you. Yet I choose growth." With her last words escaping her lips, a radiant light shattered through the gloom, illuminating every crevice of the shadows. She sensed a breaking point was nearing, the tension palpable as if energy crackled in the air, waiting for release, and then, without warning, each shadow screamed, a chorus of voices mingling in anguish. The dark figure began to dissolve, the swirling mist unraveling in a spiraling vortex, drawing its strength away as Sarah's growing light swelled. But deep within the chaos, she caught a glimpse of something, an image flickering, alive within the shadows, a secret she had long buried, something that connected her deeply to the very essence of who she truly was. "What's that?" She breathed, the curiosity battling her growing fear. David's eyes widened, reflecting both terror and hope. Sarah, don't dwell on it. You're breaking free. Yet she couldn't help but reach out towards that elusive flicker, her heart racing with questions. What was it? And could it reveal a part of her she had never dared to uncover? The shadows fought fiercely as she approached that light, the tension climbing to an unbearable peak. In this moment, would she embrace the truth of her identity? Or would her past draw her back into its suffocating grip? The answer waited just beyond her grasp, shrouded in the very darkness she was desperate to conquer. The light pulsed brighter, drawing Sarah closer, each heartbeat sinking with it. A magnetic force pulled her in, compelling her to confront what she had buried deep within her past. The swirling shadows moaned, an angry tempest fighting against her fearlessness. No! The dark figure screamed, now loosely formed, its voice slipping from authority to despair. You can't face that. You'll regret it. But regret had become a foreign word to her. With every inch she gained towards the flickering image, the burdens that had once suffocated her began to lift. Her hand outstretched, she felt the warmth radiate like the sun, infusing her with newfound strength. The darkness swirled into a frenzy around her, shrill cries echoing in the void. The faces of her past danced in the shadows, sneering, desperate to bring her back into their fold. Fear clawed at her, thin fingers curling around her throat. Stop! They chanted in dissonance, their voices each filled with threats and promises of safety and submission. You don't want to see, I do want to see. She shouted back, her voice cutting through the chaos like a lightning bolt. I want to know. In that moment of defiance, the image and the shadows coalesced, taking shape an old photograph, faded but clear. Her younger self smiled back at her, a flicker of innocence untouched by pain or regret. Hope twisted into her heart, fighting against the aches that had haunted her. What the? David murmured, his eyes darting between her and the spectacle. Sarah! He called, urgency flooding his voice. Focus on the light. Don't get lost. But the light was her way home. It was the truth she needed. She closed her eyes for a heartbeat, then lunged forward, grasping for the image, yearning for understanding. The moment her fingers touched it, an explosion of warmth enveloped her, memories rushed back, clearer than ever. Laughter with friends, carefree days spent under golden sunlit skies. Each one bathed in color, each triggering a surge of happiness. The connection to the girl she once was burst open like the petals of a blooming flower. And then came the harder truths, the betrayals she weathered, the pain that followed. Confronting the hurt tangled in those images felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, the unknown depths beneath both terrifying and exhilarating. The shadows screamed louder, swirling into a monstrous form, trying to pull her back. You'll fall. You'll lose everything. Not if I let go. Sarah shouted, and she began to slip the chains of doubt that bound her. The light exploded, sending a radiant shockwave through the darkness. The faces that had haunted her melted away, replaced by flashes of laughter, warmth, and acceptance. Embrace it. Whispered a voice, clearer and more resonant than any of the others, a voice she now recognized as her own, empowered and filled with resolve. With each heartbeat, Sarah felt the darkness shrink, receding as her realization grew. The burdens of fear and self-loathing melted away like ice in the sun. What had once trapped her was now only a cloud of smoke, wispy and frail, but just as victory seemed within her reach, a heavier shadow fell over the brightness. Something lingered, nestled at the edges of the light, a whispered doubt born from her own insecurities. It snaked around her like fog, creeping back to her consciousness. Sarah, it rasped, a mix of longing and despair. Are you truly ready? Are you sure you want to face the one thing you've hidden all this time? Her heart stilled, the weight of that question pressing against her. What lay in that darkness now? What truth could be so haunting that it dared to pull her back from her newfound connection? The light flickered uncertainly, an unsettling ripple coursing through it. As Sarah stood on the precipice of her own existence, the question loomed, inviting her to step forward, daring her to confront the heart of her identity once and for all. Would she seize this chance, or would the shadows consume her? The answer teetered precariously, waiting just beyond her grasp. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as the weight of that question hung in the air. The shadows coiled tighter, feeding on her hesitation. This was not just confrontation, it was unveiling. With each flicker of the light, dark whispers pricked at her resolve, gnawing at her confidence. Face it. The voice urged again, now infused with urgency. Face the truth you've hidden away. What truth? What was lurking in that suffocating blackness? She hesitated, a flicker of fear racing through her veins. Was this going to destroy her? Step forward, Sarah. David's voice was steady, even amidst the chaos. If you don't confront this, you'll never be free. His words anchored her as the light shimmered and beckoned once more. The photograph shimmered, and suddenly it was not just an image, it morphed, shifting into scenes of her life. Anguish washed over her as old memories flared back into existence. A name, a face. Daniel. The boy she had trusted, the friend she had lost. Images flooded in like a stream breaking loose, betrayal wrapped in laughter, moments of joy twisted into pain. No. She gasped, trying to pull away, but the light held her in place. A vortex of emotions whirled around, and she saw herself standing in those memories, face to face with a younger version of Daniel, one who once smiled with such innocence. Why did you let them get to you? He asked, though the voice was shadowed. Why didn't you tell them the truth? The accusation stung like a slap. Her heart raced, the air electrified with the sorrow she'd kept locked inside for so long. I thought I could hide it. She cried, desperation spilling out. But I can't, not anymore. With that admission, the storm around her intensified. The shadows erupted, fierce winds of doubt threatening to swallow her. You can't trust him. He was the one who left you. The one who hurt you. They shrieked, swirling like a tempest of guilt and self-loathing, but amidst that turmoil, the light pulsed brighter, pushing back against the darkness. You can forgive, Sarah. Just as you have forgiven yourself. The haunting memory softened for a moment, crackling at the edges, revealing glimpses of vulnerability. She was no longer just scared, she was angry. Angry with Daniel, angry with herself for allowing the fear to take root in her heart. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. She shouted, her voice reverberating against the shadows. It means moving forward. With renewed strength, she stepped closer to the radiant truth. Sarah reached for Daniel's image, her fingers trembling, not just from fear but from determination. She had to confront him, confront herself, but the darkness lashed back violently. You'll shatter everything. Your entire past is built on this lie. Lies crumble when faced with the truth. Sarah roared, and with that, she plunged her hand into the light, weaving through the chaotic memories. The surge of warmth enveloped her again, but this time it was different. It grounded her, taking the weight of the past off her shoulders. She was ready to reclaim her story. Wherever you go, I will follow, the voice resonated, now softened, almost care-filled. I promise. But just as she felt the chains of her past finally breaking, an icy chill swept through the light, sending her stumbling back. She turned, horrified to see the shadows coalesce once more, a new figure emerging, a dark silhouette with eyes that glowed like embers. Do you think it's that simple? The figure sneered, an echo of voices from her past merging into one. Some truths are better left buried. A chill vibrated through her. Was this the final test? As the grip of the dark figure tightened on her, Sarah felt the light flickering around her, teetering on the edge of brilliance and shadow. What had she really awakened? With the darkness looming ever closer, Sarah found herself caught in an endless loop of questions. Would she stand her ground, or would the past pull her back into its suffocating embrace? The answer hovered just out of reach, and in that moment, all hope rested upon her next move. The moment cracked like thunder, shaking the very air around Sarah. In the face of the dark figure that loomed with menace, she felt a fierce determination rise within her. "You will not control my story," she shouted, every word fueled by defiance. She was standing at the edge of the abyss, teetering between light and shadow, and she refused to fall back into despair. "Every truth has its weight," the figure hissed, its voice slithering through the darkness. "You're carrying the burdens of everyone you've hidden from." But the shadows were no longer suffocating her, she was ready to face them head-on. "I'm not here to run anymore," she declared, her voice ringing clear as the chaos swirled. "I'm here to acknowledge my truth." As those words echoed through the void, the energy around her fractured. The shadows writhed in agitation, losing their grip, as if Sarah's resolve illuminated the very essence of her being. David stepped closer, his presence a beacon of support. "You've got this, Sarah. We're all behind you. You're not alone." With his words igniting her spirit, she turned back to the dark figure. "You're nothing but a reflection of my fears, sewn together by the threads of doubt. But they no longer hold me." Then, she thrust her hands forward, embracing the light within her as she focused on the essence of her identity, the strength she had always possessed but had overlooked in the shadows of grief and regret. Just then, the darkness recoiled, hurt. "You can't abandon what you are," it shrieked, but Sarah met that accusation with a confidence she had never known before. "I'm not running. I am everything I've been through, and I'm more than the weight of your lies." In a whirlwind of emotion, the shadows shimmered, twisting violently, their voices blending into a haunting cacophony, a storm of memories that she now welcomed instead of feared. With every heartbeat, the light swelled brighter around her, a wall against the despair that had defined her for far too long. She began to reach out to those memories not as chains to bind her but as pieces of her story to embrace. Each memory that came forward transformed from a shadow to a shimmering truth, a testament of her resilience. As she grasped the last remnants of the darkness, she could finally see each of her trials etched clearly in front of her. The betrayals, the fears, and the broken promises faded as she cried, "I understand you. You've shaped me but you do not define me." The dark figure writhed with anguish. "This isn't the end. You face judgment, your own and theirs." But she was unyielding now. "I've already faced judgment in silence for too long." Sarah breathed deeply, the weight lifting from her chest. "It's time to break free." The immense light burst forth like a supernova, obliterating the shadows, scattering them like fallen leaves before a windstorm. With a final gasp of astonishment, the dark figure collapsed inward on itself, slipping into nothingness. Sarah stood firm, heart pounding but lighter than ever before. The room around them shifted, and instead of shadows, there was warmth. The other town members began to emerge from their panic, bewildered but awake. Each face was a reflection of bravery, their own truths surfacing with Sarah's revelation. Did we make it?" Jessica stammered, her voice shaky yet filled with awe. "We did," Sarah replied, breathless but resolute. "We faced the darkness together." A wave of acceptance washed over the group. One by one, familiar laughter surfaced, bonding them anew as they remembered not only their past but also the strength found in their collective identities. No more secrets, only connection and understanding, yet in the back of her mind, Sarah sensed a flicker, a promise waiting to be fulfilled. She wasn't just Sarah the timid waitress, she was Sarah, empowered by her journey, shaped by every experience. She smiled, setting her gaze on the others. "We are so much more than we think." They stood together as a united front, all ready to embrace life and whatever came next, not as shadows but as vibrant, whole beings. From that moment forward, Verdant Springs would feel different, radiant with the warmth of truth. Secrets no longer clung to the air like thick fog, instead, joy and honesty flowed through their hearts as they stepped into the light. As they left the church, arms interlaced, Sarah felt a gentle nudge from within. This was not just the end but a fresh beginning filled with endless possibilities. With warmth swelling in her chest, she glanced at David by her side, a knowing sparkle dancing in their eyes. With their hearts wide open, ready for whatever life had in store, they stepped into a brand new dawn together. And now, if you've loved this journey, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let us grow this amazing community. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending because I want to hear from each and every one of you, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is everything, and I can't wait to embark on our next adventure together.